Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about inflation today. Why is this a prepping video, AP? Why aren't you putting this in the Alaska Prepper News channel? Because ladies and gentlemen, we need to know about this. We need to know that prices are going to continue to go up so that we can be encouraged to stock up our pantries today so that we can eat tomorrow at today's prices. Don't allow inflationary forces to strip you of your wealth by making the dollars that you earn with your labor worthless. Get the things that you need now, not only because there's going to be scarcity in the future, but because whatever there is available in the future is going to be a lot more expensive than what it is now. Now, this article is by Peter Schiff. But first, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know, I would like to introduce you to Peter Schiff's father. This here is Irwin Schiff. Now, why am I introducing you to this man? Ladies and gentlemen, it's because Irwin Schiff, in my opinion, is an American hero that died in an American jail as a political prisoner. And many people don't know about this man. And I think that many people should know about him. Now, who is Irwin Schiff? Irwin Schiff spent much of his later life in prison. He died in prison on October 16th, blind and suffering from lung cancer, having been denied compassionate release so that he could die at home with his family. So who was he? Was he a mass murderer that they put him in jail until the end of his life? No. Irwin Schiff, his crime was saying and writing things that the federal government didn't want you to hear. Now, to put it all in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, Irwin Schiff wrote a book, several books actually, but you can see his book here that he pretty much went to jail for right here in this picture of him. He went to jail because he wrote a book where he told people how illegal or unlawful the income tax is. And he was held in contempt. I believe that he was in jail for contempt for over 13 years until his death. He was held in contempt because he refused to stop writing books and selling that book. So they held him in contempt because he refused to give up his First Amendment, because his message was a message that he felt that the American people needed to hear. Now, for those of you that didn't think that the U.S. ever had any political prisoners, they did, and they probably do right now. So I just want to say R.I.P., rest in peace, Irwin Schiff. Now, Peter Schiff says, when it comes to inflation, we are just getting started. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to agree with that 100%. The July CPI or CPI data came out this week. And for the first time, the numbers were in line with expectations, leading many mainstream pundits to declare transitory inflation is already starting to cool down. Well, Peter Schiff broke down the report in his podcast. He said inflation is far from cooling off. In fact, when it comes to rising prices, you haven't seen anything yet. And ladies and gentlemen, I agree with Peter Schiff 100%. You haven't seen anything yet. July CPI rose by 0.5% month over month. This was in line with expectations for the first time this year. Every other CPI report had come in hotter or higher than expected. The year-over-year CPI came in at 5.4%, a high number but in line with expectations. Core CPI, stripping out more volatile food and energy, charted below, estimates at 0.3%. Adding up the monthly CPI increases gives us a 4.1% inflation rate through the first 7 months of 2021. And if we take that, ladies and gentlemen, and annualize the first 7 months of this year, that means that by the end of 2021, we're going to end up with about 7.2% inflation. Now, what does that mean? When people hear we're going to end up with 7.2% inflation, what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that your $1 bill that you started out with in 2021, the $1 bill that you had on January 1st, 2021, by the end of 2021, will only be able to buy you 93 cents of what you could buy in the beginning of 2021. That's what that means. Now go ahead and multiply that times 1,000. So if you had $1,000 on January 1st, 2021, by the end of 2021, that $1,000 purchasing power will be diminished to $930 purchasing power. Now think about that and multiply it times how much you make in a year. Now he says here, clearly nobody can define that as slightly above, because it clearly more than triples the 2% that the Fed supposedly is mandating. He continues to say that if we measured inflation today by using the same CPI we used to measure inflation in the 70s, this year could end up being a worse year than any single year during the 70s. And this is just getting started. Ladies and gentlemen, who would you rather trust? Would you rather trust someone in the private sector, or would you rather trust a pundit from the Federal Reserve telling you that everything's going to be all right, ladies and gentlemen? Let's just get through this little transitory inflation. Everything's going to be all right. You know, I was at Lowe's this morning, or yesterday morning. I was at Lowe's buying some lumber that I needed to finish up the inside of the bunker. And I noticed that a 2x4x8 was $5. It was just shy of $5, like $4.80 or something like that. And people are happy because it's no longer $10. But what they don't realize, or what they don't remember, is that just a year and a half ago, that same piece of 2x4x8 was only about $2 or so, $2 and change. And then what they don't remember past that is that about 5 years ago, that same 2x4x8 was less than $1. I was paying like 97 cents for it like 5 years ago. So as I said, price inflation may be transitory on the way up, but it will never come back down to its original levels. He says here, this is just getting started. So when you compare the inflation rate that we're getting now at the beginning of the cycle to the inflation rates back in the 70s at the end of the cycle, you can only imagine how much worse it's going to get this cycle. The increase in the cost of living is not transitory. It is permanent, and that is a fact. And the hope is by the Fed that after we get a big increase in our cost of living, the cost of living will continue to go up from that elevated level, but at the same rate that it was before we had this transitory period of high inflation, which to me completely destroys the credibility the Fed has in claiming that they've successfully contained inflation at 2%. Ladies and gentlemen, what the Fed is saying is that, oh, it's okay that we have inflation here because eventually your salaries will catch up with inflation. When has that ever happened? I've stated this before, that back in the 60s, the average family home cost about 1 to 1.5 times, or maybe 2 times at the most, the annual salary of an average worker. Can you tell me that you can buy a home today with 2 times your average salary, your average annual salary? I would say not. The Fed is not going to fight inflation at all. It's probably going to surrender and inflation will win by default. But even if it tries to fight inflation, it will lose and inflation will win. Because the Fed cannot tighten. The Fed has got itself into a box. If the Fed could tighten, it would have done so already. If the Fed could fight inflation, it would already be in the battle. The fact that it's not fighting it now, the fact that it's taking a chance and hoping the problem is solved on its own, shows you that they have absolutely no ability to fight inflation. They're saying they don't want to fight it because they don't want to risk hurting the economy. Well, if they think it would hurt the economy to fight inflation now, how much more pain will it inflict upon the economy if they have to fight an even bigger inflation monster later? So it makes no sense that they would make such a risky bet unless they thought they had no alternative, because they can't fight inflation now. So all they can do is pretend and hope they can somehow delay the inevitable by simply with their words. And that's exactly what they do, ladies and gentlemen. They put their words out there in front for everyone to hear, and hopefully people believe it. As long as people believe that these paper notes have value, it will continue to have value until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it's going to come in a quick hurry. That is why I keep saying, stock up now. Stock up now so that you don't find yourself paying twice, 3 times, 4 times as much for the staples that you rely on today. Having said that, I hope you have a great Friday today. We will be having a live stream at 2 p.m. Alaska time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be Open House Friday. So I hope to see you there. Maybe we can have a little bit of fun today. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I am out.
Nutrient Survival isn't just survival food. It's special ops grade. Built to the nutritional standards of the U.S. Special Ops and packed with 40 essential nutrients. Formulated to sustain energy, sharpen focus, and keep you and your family thriving during any emergency. Real food, real ingredients. Oh, and a 25-year shelf life. Our meals will kick your taste buds in the mouth and have them coming back for dessert. Yeah, we've got that too. So whether you're digging in or bugging out, you don't just survive an emergency situation, you thrive in it. Nutrient Survival. Feed your freedom.